Hey guys, what's going on? Here is our next set of notes. It is called, or it is on, literal equations, or rather, solving literal equations. And it's going to go on page 36. It should go on page 36 if you've been following your notebook. And without further ado, here we go. So, our goal by the end of this lesson is that you guys will be able to solve a literal equation. Okay? Now, a literal equation, the only thing you really need is the definition. It's an equation with several variables. We're used to seeing like 12 equals 4 minus 6x. Okay? That is not a literal equation. Okay? A literal equation would be like saying just y equals mx plus b. If I didn't put any numbers in here and I kept this like an m and I kept that like a b, that would be a literal equation. Another one would be E equals mc squared. Some of you might have heard of it, maybe not, but this is another literal equation. Okay? This is very, very helpful for physics and chemistry, so we should learn it. Here we go. Okay, now, here's the equation. A equals PRT. Okay, whoops, let's go back. A equals PRT. So let's solve that, but we're going to solve it for the variable R. So here's what we're going to do. Okay, we're going to make a flow chart, and we're going to list everything that's happening to this variable. So I'm going to start with R. Now, when I look at the equation, the first thing that's happening to it is this right here. RT means that I'm multiplying. Let me get my dot. Oh, it's not working. There we go. I'm multiplying. Whoa, what's going on? There we go. Times T. Okay. So that would give me RT. Now, if I keep looking at the problem, the next thing that's happening is that 1 is a positive, not because of this, but because that 1 is just a positive, so I'm adding 1. So that gives me 1 plus RT. The next thing that I'm doing is I'm doing the whole thing. I'm going to say whole times P. So that gives me P parentheses 1 plus RT. And that altogether equals A. Okay? Now, we're done with that. Easy enough, right? The next thing I do is I'm going to reverse the flow chart and do the opposite operation with the same variables. So I go here. Now, if we look, I did the whole thing times P. So now I'm going to say divided by P. And that gives me A over P. I look at my next one. It was a plus 1. So now I'm going to say minus 1. That would give me A over P minus 1. Now the last one, here's where it gets kind of weird for this problem. It says times T, so I'm going to have to do divided by T. So that whole thing, I'm going to actually draw the equation first and then redo it. It's going to be A over P minus 1, and then that whole thing over T. And if I press the up arrow, or write the up arrow and put an equal sign, then that's my equation. R equals A over P minus 1 over T. And that would be the answer to this problem. Okay, that's basically how you solve literal equations. I'm going to go through 2 practice problems after this. I strongly suggest if you're confused, you follow along. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow. Here we go. Next 2. So we have this equation right here, VQ minus D equals M, and I want to solve it for Q. So then I'm going to start by making a flow chart. Okay, I start here with Q, and I list everything that's happening to it. The first thing that's happening is times V. So that gives me V, Q. The next thing that happens is I am subtracting D, so that gives me V, Q minus D. Now, there's nothing else happening to it, so all that's left is that equals M. Makes sense? Okay, now we are going to work backwards. We just saw that we did minus D, so I'm going to do the opposite operation, which is plus D, and that gives me M plus D, because again I start like this is my new one and I'm working that way. Now I draw my next line with my next box, and I see that I did divided by V, or times V, excuse me, so I'm going to do divided by V. So that would give me M plus D. Now that whole thing is divided by V. So that gives me an equation. I'm going to write it over here so that there's more space. But the equation is M plus D all over V equals Q. That's solving the original equation for Q. Now let's look at a crazy one. Solve for S. Here we go. Start with my S. Now the first thing that's happening to it is I'm multiplying it times pi. It gives me pi S. Then I'm multiplying it again times r squared. That gives me pi r squared S. Now the last thing I do is I divide by 360. That gives me pi r squared S over 360. Now again, all of that equals my answer of A. So now it's time to work backwards. Okay? So I looked, the first thing I did is, well, not the first thing, but as I go backwards, I did divided by 360, so now instead I'm going to do times 360. So that is 360A. Next I did divided by r squared, so now, or I'm sorry, I did times r squared, so now I'm going to do divided by r squared, so that gives me 360A divided by r squared. Now here's where some kids get a little bit tripped up. We see times pi here, so we're going to do divided by pi here. Now I'm going to write it off to the side, what a lot of you kids do, but don't write that down. A lot of you will go 360A divided by r squared divided by pi. Okay, that just looks weird. Okay, so we don't want to do that. No. Okay, so what we are going to do instead, we already have the division sign. So I'm going to say 360A divided by r squared. Because we already have that division sign, I'm just going to stick the pi underneath it as well. So now it's pi r squared. So then my answer, S equals 360A divided by pi r squared, and that would be my answer for that problem. We're going to go over 2 more in class, so hopefully you're ready to go, and I will see you then.